Hello everyone and welcome back to a couple books. Today we're going to be doing some book reviews off of books that I just hauled recently, and this is going to be kind of like an eerie themed book review. Does that make sense? Is eerie a word? What is the definition of eerie? Well, that's interesting. Okay, so it's an eerie book review. So we have The Lost Village, a novel by Camilla Sten, and it is translated by Alexandra Fleming. And then we also have a short story collection by John Lanchester. One is going to be a super high star reviewed, and one is going to be a super low star reviewed. So if you can guess which one is which, be sure to comment down below right now. But let us get into the actual review. So what happened in each of these books? We're going to start off with John Lanchester's Reality and Other Short Stories. So this book has 8 short stories, as you can probably see right about, I don't know, you can see it somewhere. So there's 8 short stories: Signal, Coffee, Liqueur, Which of These Would You Like, A Happy Few, Reality, Cold Call, The Kit, and Charity. And these ones each deal with a different kind of aspect of reality. They're not so Black Mirror-ish as the book was sold to me, because the book was sold to me as basically Black Mirror in a book. It wasn't quite that. We had a lot of different stories. One story, for example, was about a group of kids or a group of young adults who were on this reality TV show, and basically they were being filmed, but they didn't see the cameras and they were unaware of how they were being filmed. But you basically follow one character who was intentionally and very intentionally, I should emphasize, adapting to her environment and changing how she looks and going for certain looks in order to appear a certain way on the television show. She also contemplates how this appears to the audience, and she plays the game of, you know, kind of like backstabbing, bad talking other characters on the reality TV show without intentionally doing so. And it's also that they can last a week. We don't really know what the punishment is, and I won't really spoil what really ends up happening at the end of the story, but that's one story, for example. Another one is about a group of professors who are basically sitting around and they're basically just demeaning people who aren't educated, which that one was not as nearly as interesting as some of the other ones. Another one is basically about this like robot that needs to be built for this family, and I won't really say which story it is because that's kind of going to be like too much giving away, but basically it's about this robot that needs to be built. I get kind of like iRobot vibes or Wall-E vibes from this story quite a bit, and it's but basically the problem with this book is that I came into it expecting it to be very much Black Mirror. Like, I don't know if you always remember some of the scenes of Black Mirror or some of the concepts of Black Mirror, but in case you're forgetting, here's some of the more graphic stuff. Okay, so now that you guys understand what Black Mirror, like look at this stuff, like what the hell? Like, Black Mirror is intense, okay? Black Mirror is crazy, it's insane, it's mind-bending, like my mind, like, it moves you to the next level. And I'm really just talking about the first few seasons of Black Mirror, not the later seasons, obviously, of course, but so I go into this book expecting that, and that's not what I got out of it. Yes, some of the stories were odd, but none of them really gave me like a horror feel or like an eerie feel that like Black Mirror can do, or like a terrified of society kind of feel, or like throw away my phone tomorrow kind of feel. None of those, I didn't get any of that from this, and that was a huge disappointment, especially with what I was coming into it with. And also, like, while the writing was good, some of the stories were written in a very different way that made it not so clear and made it not so much fun to read. While some stories had the writing down pat, others just didn't, simply. And in addition to all those fun facts that I just listed for you all, is the fact that honestly, nothing really happened. Like, it was like, I think John, the author, was trying to make a story that was mind-bending and trying to make you think hard, but it really didn't make me think hard. I just kind of finished the book and I was just like, okay, that was a waste of time. Did not enjoy this book really at all. While the author is obviously a talented writer, and obviously he has bones, like, I felt like each of his stories, they just didn't go that next step. Like, I felt like he kept trying to leave it at a weird, anticipated cliffhanger feel, but he just kept missing the mark to the point of, like, you just didn't care what happened. And that's kind of the problem with short stories, is you have such little time to really get to know and interact with each of these characters and feel what they're feeling, especially when they're short stories of different characters in different settings. By the time you're halfway through the story, you just figured out what's going on, maybe, even if that, and then you now need to then pull this all together and develop feelings and emotions towards the character in order to really care what happens to them after the final page. And I just didn't really get that feeling with any of the stories or any of the characters that we see. One or two of them may have been somewhat decent, like 3-star range, but majority of them were 1 stars or even 2 stars, and I just didn't really get connected to the story. So at the end of the day, I ended up giving it 2 stars because while the writing was not bad, I just felt the story was very softballed, and I just did not feel really satisfied with anything that I experienced while enjoying this, and I really honestly rather felt underwhelmed to an extreme point. The next book I have for you guys today is going to be The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. Obviously, since what I said in the beginning of this video, this was a very good book and I really enjoyed it. But basically, what is it about? Basically, we follow this girl named Alice. Now, what is Alice? Alice is the granddaughter of a woman who used to live in a small little tiny village. And in this small little tiny village, it was a very quiet kind of life. Half the population went to church, half the population didn't go to church. It wasn't really a big deal. Everyone knew everybody. It was a very small town vibe, okay? Now, in this small town, there were a lot of nice people, a lot of lovely people, and everyone was happy. Our main character's grandmother, Alice's grandmother, she grew up in a small town, and it wasn't until she got married that she decided to move away and move into the city. So she left and moved away into the city, and she kept touch with her family via letters. And they basically wrote letters back and forth, especially between Alice's grandmother and her grandmother's sister. And that's basically what we know. And they basically kept contact, and then absolutely out of nowhere, the letters stopped coming, and then a few short months later, everyone in the town or village, whatever you like to call it, disappeared. Ooh, creepy, spooky, okay? Now, basically what happens is we are unsure. Now, Alice has a great film idea. She wants to make a documentary. She went to film school. She did all those shenanigans, and now she wants to make a documentary off of the story of this village, because no one ever figured out what happened, and this story has a lot of mystery around it. When the police showed up to basically figure out what happened, there was a dead body in the middle of the town, there was a baby crying in the house next door. No one really knows how either of those situations came to develop, and all we know is that you have a baby and a dead body, and everyone in the town is gone, and to the point that it's very Roanoke vibes. So you have to know you have to be intrigued in what's about to happen. I'm intrigued in what's about to happen, and Alice indeed was as well. So she, a few years after the disappearance of everybody in the town, she decides to go. Yes, Miss Nova, we all hear you. She decides to go ahead and film her journey as she tries to decipher what actually happened through both reading the letters between her grandmother and her sister, and also seeing what physical evidence she can find on the ground of the village. And through both of these means, we basically uncover the truth of what happened at this village, which I will leave you guys to find out. But let me tell you, this book had jump scares, it had eeriness, it had gross moments, it had weird cult vibes going on. It had pretty much everything I wanted out of the book. It was definitely Blair Witch turned up, and it just answered all my questions. And while at the end of the book we didn't have the famous Blair Witch scene, which you could probably see somewhere around here. Yeah, that's eerie. That's eerie. We don't need that in our lives. So you don't get anything like that at the end of this book, which I'm kind of relieved, because that would have been disappointing just to be copy and paste. But this one had a satisfying ending. It had a conclusion to it, and overall the writing and the translation were excellent. The story was enveloping. The characters you could really get attached to. I had 1 or 2 issues with some of the characters, but overall I felt like each of the characters had a very distinct personality and their motivations were very clear. Overall, very few faults with this book. I probably going to end up giving it 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book, and I might be a little bit biased because I love Blair Witch Project, and I really want to go and get hunted by a witch in the woods sometime. Maybe. But, yes. Yeah, so, highly recommend picking up this book. So, those are my 2 book reviews for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I'll be seeing you guys all in the next video. Bye now.